I recently stumbled on a video called 5 Reasons God Exists. It's Christian apologetics, and supposedly presents 5 reasons why you should accept this fact that there is a God, and then that He is the God described in the Christian Bible. Well, I watched the video, and the people who made it seem to be fairly well informed and educated, but the facts they give are mixed with conjecture, disinformation, and erroneous conclusions. So I decided to re-edit the original video and add my own commentary, fisking the whole thing to show why the conclusions they draw are not necessarily the only ones possible. Enjoy.
Have you ever thought deeply about the question, does God exist? Did He create man, or did man create Him? The question of God's existence may be the ultimate of what philosophers call the big questions of life. What people perceive as real, true, right, valuable, and meaningful is dramatically influenced by their view of whether God is real or not. Since this perspective forms the context of an overall worldview, the atheist and the Christian view all of reality in different ways. For the Christian, the God of the Bible defines the ultimate context for all life and thought. But are there valid reasons to believe He actually exists? A cogent way of arguing for God is to infer His existence as an explanation for the most meaningful realities of life.
This is where we run into our first problem. The word cogent is defined as cogent, adjective, appealing to the intellect or powers of reasoning, convincing, a cogent argument. See synonyms at valid. The question is, therefore, is it valid to assume God's existence when attempting to determine whether or not God exists? An easy way to determine this is to reword the proposition to make the fallacy obvious. A cogent way of arguing for the flying spaghetti monster is to infer his existence as an explanation for the most meaningful realities of life.
This abductive form of logical reasoning is very similar to the way detectives, lawyers, historians, and scientists reason.
No, it's not. As any fan of Sherlock Holmes can tell you, detectives use deductive reasoning to form conclusions, although abductive and inductive reasoning may play a role. The same is true for scientists, lawyers, and historians.
This careful thought process moves from the data, facts, and evidence and phenomena of the world to draw the most consistent and plausible explanation for these realities.
This is true as far as it goes. But notice the slide uses the word deduction, not abduction. Plus, this model would have been more accurate.
Logicians call this form of reasoning inference to the best explanation.
Actually, that's just the title of a book about abductive reasoning. And another word for abductive reasoning is guessing.
Let's briefly explore how the God of the Bible provides a solid and consistent foundation for explaining the important realities and phenomena encountered in life in 5 specific ways. Number 1, God uniquely accounts for the physical universe's beginning.
Notice that they use the word uniquely here. I think we need to hold them to it. I suspect they may be overlooking some other creation myths and scientific theories which also address this cosmological question just as neatly.
According to prevailing scientific theory, the universe had a singular beginning about 14 billion years ago. All matter, energy, time, and space came into existence out of nothing. This Big Bang gradually cooled and diffused sufficiently to allow for the formulation of galaxies, stars, planets, and so forth. This Big Bang cosmological model, which is embraced by the vast majority of research scientists, demonstrates that the universe is not eternal, but had a specific beginning a finite period of time ago.
At this point, we need to pause and examine the question, what is the universe? The traditional answer to this question is that the universe is everything that is. It's space, time, energy, and everything else. But science has devised new terms to address the issues of the origins of the universe. These terms include panverse, multiverse, parallel universe, polyverse, and omniverse. One theory speculates that the energy and mass that is sucked into black holes is condensed into a singularity until it is compelled to explode into a new universe, complete with its own energy, space, time, and possibly its own unique laws of physics. For that new universe, time has just begun. There was no before to this universe's experience, but neither did it come from nothing. It exists parallel to our universe, distinct from our experience, yet present with it.
In light of the compelling scientific evidence that the universe had a definite beginning, the question asked by the German philosopher Gottfried Leibniz is quite stimulating. Why is there something rather than nothing? Why indeed? Big Bang cosmology matches quite well with the biblical doctrine of creation ex nihilo. The first verse of the Bible states, In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The infinite, eternal, and personal Creator God of the Bible can serve as an adequate explanation for the physical universe's beginning.
Ignoring for the moment the fact that the Bible has two distinctly different and opposed Genesis accounts in the first 2 chapters alone, this is still demonstrably untrue. The idea that God created the universe ex nihilo, or from nothing, simply creates an infinite regress to the question, but where then did God come from? Of course, science also recognizes that its own theories of the origins of the universe do no better at addressing this regress, but that's beside the point. Presently, we are not arguing that the scientific explanation is better. We are merely asserting that the God hypothesis is not better. St. Augustine of Hippo, in his Confessions, observed that the world was made, not in time, but simultaneously with time. He asserted that God existed outside of the universe in a state not of nothingness, but rather of changelessness and motionlessness. But this concept of God is not the biblical God, who speaks to others as he creates, and constructs through determination and force of will. This concept of God is barely recognizable as a deity at all.
Yet if you reject belief in God, how do you explain the universe's singular beginning?
We don't know. Is that so bad?
Some atheists insist that the universe came from nothing by no one. But is that answer truly reasonable? The Bible's cosmology, on the other hand, fits the scientific facts.
Honestly, it doesn't. According to the Bible, the earth, then the sun, were created first and second in that order, before the stars and the other heavenly bodies such as galaxies and nova and light itself. Also, according to the Bible, the waters were separated from the earth by a solid firmament into which the stars were set. This does not match with current cosmological scientific theory.
Number 2, God uniquely accounts for the order, complexity, and design evident in the universe. Even the staunchest atheist would admit that the universe exhibits amazing order, regularity, complexity, and intelligibility. However, the general acceptance of the anthropic principle, the view that nature's laws appear to be fine-tuned to ensure the emergence of human life by the scientific community, has heightened the intuition that the universe is the product of a cosmic designer.
Heightened it for whom?
The astonishing intricacy, harmony, and organization of the cosmos, and allowing for human life, is evidenced from the fine-tuning of the fundamental constants of physics, to the just-so nature of the galaxy and solar system.
Let's examine the anthropic nature of the known universe. There are, at a minimum, 1 billion planets in our galaxy alone. Perhaps as many as 30 billion, but we'll go with the low conservative estimate. There are also, at a minimum, 100 billion galaxies in the known universe. That's the known universe. Who knows how many there are in the universe beyond our ability to see with the most powerful telescopes? So that means that, conservatively speaking, there are 100 billion planets out there. That's 100 billion galaxies with at least a billion planets each. Now, in order to qualify as a planet in the first place, the rock in question must orbit a star. Our own star, Sol, has no fewer than 9 planets orbiting it. Of those 9, 3 orbit in the sweet spot known as the Goldilocks zone, where we are just far enough out for water to not completely freeze, but also not so close that it burns off. Assuming that holds true for all of the other solar systems, then roughly 33 billion other planets orbit in that sweet spot around their own suns. If, like in our own solar system, only 1/3 of those actually has all of the necessary other requirements for life to originate, then life is possible on at least 11 billion other planets. Life evolves after it originates. That's what science demonstrates. RNA or DNA forms one day, and that day is the origin. It only has to happen once on any planet for that planet to then evolve life. Planets exist for billions of years, and once DNA forms, bacteria are not far behind. Given a billion years on any one planet where the conditions are right, as they are here on Earth, life will form.